Greetings, vloggers, bloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty. Today, I want to explain a little bit about growing up in the dark ages of autism, and pioneering what really what was defined as autism back then, and has now been expanded and been grown to what autism is and what we know now, opposed to what we knew in the '90s when I was first diagnosed. So, a little bit about my story of being diagnosed. Back in 1998, we knew there was something definitely wrong. We always knew there was something wrong. Before that, I was known as having autistic-like features, but was not officially diagnosed. That was because it was before 1994 and the update of the DSM. When the DSM was updated, Asperger's was added, as we know. That was in '94. So '98, I kind of had this. My parents had seen that I was not doing well and that I needed help. They took me to the place. I still get help today, and they suggested in-home services. When I went home, when I had my first in-home services, I met a mobile therapist, and she immediately discovered, but it was not much of a good discovery because I ran away from home the first visit and went several blocks from my home, and my therapist went and got me. But when I came home, and she had spent the weekend making 16 calls on my behalf, trying to find out to get me. She knew right away that I had Asperger syndrome, and she made 16 calls that weekend on my behalf, and we got into what was a research study in the University of Pittsburgh. Um, Went through a few battery of tests, met the director, and the director is known as an expert. Um, she knew that within the first 5 minutes I was going to be in this study because I know I she knew, she just knew. And I'm very thankful for that person. It led the pathway, it shined the light on many things. It shined the light on accepting the diagnosis, knowing what the diagnosis was, but yet it was still early in time. That 1998 was still a pioneering age. We had just been branched 6 years earlier and really getting into the houses of internet, which we had. And internet was great, and it was not so great at the time. It brought on a lot of research for, we did a lot of internet browsing and found a lot of things about it. But yet there were still many things about autism, Asperger's, that we didn't know. And we didn't know what those things were, and we always considered the things that we didn't know what we now know, like echolalia and stimming, and just other things like that. Being really, there's things necessary to cope in life. They were considered not appropriate at the time. Masking. I would mask a lot when I was in junior high at the time. I would mask and hold it all in until I got to home, because that was my safe space, and I would let it all out, and it didn't matter who was there. It's most likely my mother, or sometimes she worked a 12-hour job, and sometimes she wasn't there. When she was, she got the full rage of glory, and it wasn't pleasant, and it led into hospital stays and later placement to balance my meds out. But back then, we really didn't know what was, what some of the affects of Asperger syndrome really was. It was really very pioneering. Educators didn't know what it was. Um, you know, Support staff didn't know what it was. It was very pioneering, and a lot of these behaviors that I was exhibiting, were unknown, and I was only from university research is what people knew, and what you had to go somewhere big to get the experts. But people grew on as people grew and knew, and as I entered adulthood, it became started knowing about these things. But then it didn't come to realization until I went to a conference for my job that, oh, and I met the director of the Autism Connection of Pennsylvania, and I enjoy that organization very much, but I didn't realize until I knew what these words were, and what some of the behaviors that were exhibited, that they were normal and it's okay. And I still, it was very unlikely. Like I was always told not to do things, and maybe because people weren't educated, people didn't know, and it gave me the short end of the deal. But later on in life, as we grow out, we learn more about autism, and autism's a wonderful thing. If you use your talents and you focus more on your talents, you can make it work. 2015, we lost the Asperger's diagnosis. Those who were grandfathered in, and it's a great thing. Um, but I had to live a very hard road to learn and accept, and get to know that some of the behaviors are okay. That some of the echolalia and some of the stimming and some of the other behaviors were quite, they weren't accepted then, or they weren't even understood to the degree that they are today, and now they're more accepted and more approvable. And I know there's therapies out there that dodge that other way, but and I'm not for that, because I think everybody should have the freedom to express how they truly cope with things. How can you bottle everything up so much inside and not be able to cope with it? So I just learn. I'm starting to get acceptable to learn that it's okay to wear headphones when you need to. It's okay to say those things when you have to, and sometimes we say it in different voices, and sometimes it's just who we are. And if we have tics or other things, it's okay. I just wish there was more acceptance in the world when it comes to that. When it comes to autism and other behaviors similar to autism, that there is more of an acceptance for who we are and what we do. And if you have questions, ask. Don't be afraid to ask. Um, you know, if you think if you think it's if I think it's unusual, or don't be offended by it. I would be willing to share anything with you I could. I'm very open about my diagnosis with autism, and I wish if I encourage anybody, if they have a story, to tell it. I've started this blog, over a year ago, and I've really got deep. I've started it over 5 years ago, but I've really got deep into it over probably the last year because of COVID and needing an outlet to entertain myself. And I still need that outlet, and I see it's a great voice for me to express how I'm feeling. And it really brings out a lot of good memories and good things. But learning is the biggest thing. And when you learn is accepting that it's okay, it makes you feel like a better person. And when you have that ability to do so, it just makes you feel great. So with that, I thank you again for another great video. As always, like, follow, subscribe, click the bell notification on this video if you want to see more of my content. Give a like, a thumbs up button if you won't mind. As always, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Dustin's Dynasty, on YouTube, Dustin's Dynasty, on Pinterest and TikTok at Dustin's Dynasty ASD. I'm also do many of my blog posts on my of my blog, the podcast of my blog post on at Dustin's Dynasty ASD on many of the streaming platforms. So please feel free to look, and always visit on the web at DustinsDynastyUSA.com. I thank you. Have a good weekend. Enjoy your holiday.